This is my video of the Two Johns mine. It was taken some years ago before the mine more or less disappeared. What you're looking at now is the remnants of the railroad tracks for a little mine railroad. That is completely gone now. It used to go off into the trees and for quite some way, about a half mile, I believe. And this area here is an exchange building where the mine carts came up out of the mine, and then the ore was transferred to another track where it went out and eventually linked up with the processing plant connection. Up there in the distance, you can just barely see the old winch. It was a cable that went all the way down into the mine, which used an inclined plane. The cable itself and that piece of equipment is no longer there. It was totally stripped by vandals sometime in the early 2000s.
That's all.
There's another view of it. If you look at it now, that's virtually all gone. The pile of wood is still
okay.
there, but the mine cable there, the hoist cable that you could see, is pretty much gone. This is what remains of the collapsed building, and the winch is over there in the distance. If you were to go up there today, you wouldn't see any of this.
Railroad grade.
Although this is not
Almost
clear,
too
this
steep
is
to climb.
the incline in
With
which
the four-wheeler. I mean, it's
it went down to the
You
mine,
look down off
probably
the side
about
of
a
the railroad,
half mile
and up
down the
the side.
hill. And at the bottom of that incline, you'll see that this is where the mine entrance was. And the winch went all the way up to the exchange building, and those tracks followed the incline and right into the mine. The mine is not really safe to enter. It is flooded. Depending on the time of year, sometimes the water level is extremely high and right up to the edge, and other times the water level's considerably lower, usually in the fall. If you do go into the mine, there's more equipment inside the mine. Most of the time that equipment is flooded, so you have to go at certain times when the equipment is actually above water. It's not recommended that you go in there, and the boards are kind of broken, and it's possible to go in. I wouldn't classify that mine as very safe, so I definitely don't want to go in there. But if you peek in the door with a strong flashlight and the water level is not too high, you can see the equipment down there, probably about 50 feet into the mine, and it's basically a pump that pumped water out of the mine. Video's a little scratchy at this point. But anyway, there's the bridge that goes across a little part of that would be what Squaw Creek is right there, and that bridge is probably about 30 feet above the creek. And again,
All right,
it doesn't
look at the
look
camera.
like this nowadays. It's all the wood is more or less rotted away, and it takes a brave person to go across that bridge nowadays, because it's basically just, what wood is there is virtually all rotted, and as you can see, it's a fair distance above the creek bed down below. If you look to the right of the picture, you can kind of see it down there, and there's not a lot of water at this point because it's very high up in the creek. It's some distance up from the bottom of Spearfish Canyon. I would hazard a guess as to how far it is, but it's a good distance. In order to get here from Spearfish Canyon, the Squaw Creek is not passable, so you can't just follow the creek up to it. You have to go around the long way. And there's kind of looking down the chasm underneath the bridge. As you can see, it's a pretty good distance down there. The bridge itself was made out of old mine railroad. Uh, those uprights there, railroad tie track from mine. They're very light gauge track, and then it's just an I-beam that was welded up and some other things there. But it's an interesting area there. Again, here's another view of the bridge from there, and one of our brave companions is climbing down the hill there to get down to the bottom and look at the actual creek. So this gives you a good idea how far below the bridge the actual creek bed is. He's gonna go down there. Anyway, this is the Two Johns mine, and if possible, if it's open, you can get there on an ATV, and it's you have to more or less know where it is. It's not any place where you'd run across it accidentally. But at one time, it was a pretty well preserved mine. Nowadays, of course, it's not in very good shape. So enjoy.